The State of the Union is strong. Just briefly, because I know I'm on a time limit, I was honored by Senator Jack Reed, our senior senator, with an invite to what was certainly a lifetime, once in a lifetime invite to the State of the Union, and was just blown away by just all the people that were in one room that represent our government, the Supreme Court, the ambassadors, the cabinet, every member of the House and the Senate, as well as the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So everybody in the room, and Michelle Obama was sitting about 20 seats from me in the front row of the gallery, up in the gallery, or I call it the peanut gallery, but it actually was not that far from where the podium was. It's a much smaller a venue than you would think if you're there in person, for those who've been to Congress. I've always just watched it from television, so I was really, really honored to be there, and I thought the President did an excellent job in terms of talking about some legacy stuff and some current stuff and some future stuff, and you know, I sat there with mixed emotions because I'm going to be sad to see him go, you know, this time next year. But my job is to, one, explain briefly what the NAACP is about. We're about 100 and, I guess now, 7 years old, 107 years old. We started in 1909 on Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, February 12th, 1909. And it was because of the lynching craze that was going across this country. So that's how we started nationally. Locally, we started in 1913. 4 years later, it was because that blacks were denied entrance to the local YMCA. So that's how we started here in Providence. But what I want to do is, I know you guys are going to take a vote in terms of Black Lives Matter. I want to give you some information. You know, here on in, I want to come up with data. All right, I figured the last time I got into a whole lot of dialogue about this, that, and the other, but I want to come up with some information now to give you more, something so that you can really have as tangible. All right, here's some disparity facts. People of color make up 30% of the U.S. population, but 60% of those in prison. That means that 1 in 15 black men, 1 in 36 Hispanic men, and 1 out of 106 white men are in jail. So that's one statistic. According to the Department of Justice, blacks and Hispanics were 3 times more likely to be searched during a traffic stop than white motorists. Blacks were twice as likely to be arrested, and almost 4 times as likely to experience the use of force during encounters with the police. Black and Hispanic youth, representing about 35% of the country, represent more than 70% of those involved in school-related arrests. 70%, twice the population. According to the Sentencing Project, 58% of black youth sent to prison are sent to adult prisons. 58%, more than half. Blacks represent 14% of regular drug users, but 37% of those arrested for drug offenses. Basically, black drug use and white drug use is similar, 13%, but 2.5 to 3 times more blacks are arrested in terms of things like marijuana and other drugs. I have a couple more. U.S. Sentencing Commission said black offenders receive 10% longer sentences than whites for the same crime. Same crime. And are 21% more likely to receive mandatory minimums. 21% more likely to receive mandatory minimums. Think about that. And also 20% more likely to be sentenced to prison in the first place for the same crime. Let's talk about voting. Voting laws prohibit people with felony convictions to vote. These voting laws disproportionately disenfranchise people of color. 13% of all black men are denied the right to vote in this country because of these laws. 13% of all black men cannot vote because of these felony disenfranchised laws. Felony disenfranchised policies have led to 11 states denying the right to vote to more than 10% of the black population. So right now, 10% of the black population cannot even vote because of prison-related laws, okay? I know in Rhode Island we had a law in 2006 we struck it down. So now, if you're in jail and you have been released, you can vote. But in a lot of places, you know, you cannot vote for the rest of your life. And this country is built on democracy and voting and participation. So you can see how bad things are in terms of the black community. Also, after release, wages grow at 21% slower rate for black former inmates than white former inmates. So when we say Black Lives Matter, Black lives truly matter. And the whole thing about why we don't want people to say all lives matter, because I think we all agree that all lives do matter. But it's the black lives that are being taken. All right, so for somebody to just say Black Lives Matter, period, without a however or without a but, that's very important because it's an acknowledgement that you see the problem, that you recognize that there's a problem with black lives. You say that, and I'll say all lives, not all day, because I do believe that. But when you have, let's say, a street, and there's a house on fire, you don't have the fire department going to that street and saying, you know what? All houses matter. No, they go to the house on fire and put the fire out. That's what they do. Don't they? People hope they do. Who we paying our taxes for? Now, that's. I want to give you some stats, but I also want to put a face on why I think the young ladies after Trayvon decided that we had to have the movement. Between July 7th of 2014 and April 19th, 2015, there were about 16 black people that were killed by police under some of the most questionable circumstances imaginable. And I'm going to go through a few of these, and hopefully this will work. Okay, John Trey Hamilton. Okay, this is April 30th, 2014. He's from Milwaukee. He was fatally shot 14 times by a police officer in a Milwaukee park. The officer was responding to a call from employees at a nearby Starbucks, alleging that Hamilton, who had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, was disturbing the peace. The officer who arrived first determined that Hamilton wasn't doing anything illegal. Officer Christopher Manning showed up later, and after trying to pat Hamilton down, engaged in a struggle with him that led to the shooting. Manning was not charged. July 17, 2014, Eric Gardner, New York. Eric Gardner, 43, was killed after he was put in an illegal chokehold for 15 seconds by a white police officer, allegedly for selling loose cigarettes. Gardner said, "I can't breathe," 11 times as he was held down by several officers on the sidewalk. The officer who put Gardner in the chokehold, Daniel Pantaleo, was not charged. Gardner's death sparked peaceful protests across the nation, with demonstrators adopting the phrase, "I can't breathe," as a symbol slogan of protest. August 5th, 2014, John Crawford, Dayton, Ohio. John Crawford, 22, was shot and killed by a police officer at a Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio. There did not appear to be a confrontation with the police, and Crawford was unarmed. He had been holding a toy BB gun. The officers involved in the shooting, Sean Williams and David Darkow, were not charged. August 9th, 2014, Michael Brown, Jr., Ferguson, Missouri. Unarmed, Michael Brown, 18, was shot and killed by Ferguson police officer Dan Wilson. In November, a grand jury declined to charge Wilson in the fatal shooting. Brown's death and the lack of charges against Wilson sparked protests, some of them involving Ferguson across the nation. August 11, 2014, Ezell Ford, Florence, California. Ezell Ford, a 25-year-old mentally ill man, was shot 3 times, including once in the back, by a white officer. He was unarmed. The investigation is still ongoing, but it has been placed on an investigative hold. So far, no charges have been filed against Charlton, Wampler, and Antonio Villegas, the 2 officers involved. August 12, 2014, Dante Parker, Victorville, California. Dante Parker, 36-year-old father of 5, died in police custody after being repeatedly stunned by a taser in San Bernardino County. The local investigation is still ongoing, but the NAACP has called for the federal government to take over, according to the San Bernardino Sun. November 13, 2014, Tanisha Anderson, Cleveland. Tanisha Anderson, 37, died after officers in Cleveland allegedly slammed her head on the pavement while taking her into custody. Anderson's family had said she had bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. The investigation into the case remains ongoing, and no charges have been filed against the officers involved. November 20th, 2014. All this is within a 7-month period. Brooklyn, New York. Akai Gurley, 28, was shot and killed by a police officer while walking in a dimly lit New York City public housing stairwell with his girlfriend. Gurley, who was unarmed, was pronounced dead at a hospital. New York City Police Department Commissioner Bill Bratton called the shooting an accidental discharge. Accidental discharge. The officer, rookie Peter Lang, was charged with second-degree manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and 2 counts of official misconduct. And that's one of the rare cases where an officer had been brought to what we say justice. One of the rare cases, because we know state grand juries are loath to indict a police officer. They work too closely together. It's a conflict of interest. Okay. Finally, in terms of the people that have been killed, Tamir Rice, 12, was shot and killed by Cleveland police after officers mistook his toy gun for a real weapon. The 2 police officers involved, Timothy Lockman and Frank Gameback,
have not been charged. Rice's family had filed wrongful death lawsuit against the officers in the city of Cleveland. So, I mean, I could go on and on. I could have cited 200 examples. So we have a problem. We have a crisis here. We have a community that's under siege, the black community, where black parents can't even think about having their black sons or even black daughters go out here without worrying whether or not they should come back home. This is America. We should not have to go through that. And these people, these incidences are happening at a frighteningly frequent rate. So to deny that there is a crisis in this country, I think the evidence suggests that there is. And to not be a part of something that is bigger than yourself, I think the Unitarian Church believes in doing those kinds of things. So I beseech you to support the Black Lives Matter movement for all the reasons that I've stated this evening. All the statistics and all the lives that have been taken, unfortunately, by law enforcement in ways that we all have to believe were some of the most questionable situations imaginable. So I thank you, and hopefully